my name is Jason and thanks for tuning into my channel. Today we're going to be discussing a little bit about preventative bike maintenance and more specifically targeting the front fork assembly of your bike. Now this could be applicable to any bike, whether it's a mountain bike or a beach cruiser or like my wife's e-bike that you see over my shoulder right here. We're going to use her bike as an example today and talk about some of the things about cleaning the stanchion tubes, what those two dials are, the fork lockout and the tension springs in there. We'll show you how to clean some of those seals and a thing called lizard skins, which I'm going to show you here in a few minutes. Cut those up and put those on to kind of protect the bike, because you know what, these bikes are quite the investment and you want to try to get them to last as long as possibly can. So I hope a few of these tips will help you out. And as a disclaimer, just to let you guys know up front, in no ways do I claim to be an expert. No company has approached me. I'm not getting paid by any company, nor am I endorsing any product. I'm just kind of sharing some knowledge with you guys and hoping it helps you out. And if it does, great. And hey, if there's something that you want to share back with me and tell me a different way to do it, great. I'll take that advice as well. I'm just a regular guy doing his regular 9 to 5 and just happen to like my e-bikes riding on the weekend. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and readjust the camera here and we'll point out different parts of the forks before we get into the maintenance. Okay, we're taking a closer look at my wife's Step-Thru bike here, and as you can see, we're looking specifically at the front fork assembly. We have our main fork here, and inside the fork is we have what's known as our stanchion poles, or tubes, if you will. These are what provide a little bit of the shock absorption, if you will, when you hit potholes and bumps in the ground, depending on whether or not you're locked out or what your tension is. Notice here we have a little rubber seal or gasket. There's one on each side of these, and there is a little bit of dirt in here, so we'll talk about cleaning those in a few minutes. But to continue on, we really want to keep this gasket as clean as we can, this little rubber thing here, and have our stanchion tube relatively lubricated. Up on top here we have some dials. I'm going to go ahead and readjust the camera so you get a better look at those dials and what they do. All right, I'm straddling over the bike here, and I'm looking down the neck, and you'll notice both on the left and right hand side two different dials, and there is a specific reason that there are two different dials like that. The one on the right here is going to be your suspension lockout, and there's two positions here. So in the unlocked position, normally towards the top, this is what's going to allow the forks to go ahead and do a little bit of that bounce. However, if you rotate it all the way down to the locked position, then the locks are forked. These are not going to move at all, and you're going to experience a more, I don't know, perhaps more of a stiff ride. It's either on or it's basically off. So the default here, we're going to go ahead and just leave it on, and that's what's going to go ahead and give the bike suspension some bounce. Now on the left hand side we have a dial here, and this dial, as you tighten it up to, or you rotate it to clockwise, it's going to go ahead and tighten up this. There's a spring inside the tube here, and that's going to allow, the tighter that spring is, the less give that these shocks are going to have. If you turn it counterclockwise, if you will, multiple rotations, and it's going to go ahead and loosen up that spring that's inside, and you're going to have a lot more give and take. All in all, this rotates up from all the way to its most loose position, and turning it clockwise one full revolution, it will make almost 6 complete revolutions all the way around, and just shy of that, maybe about 5.5 revolutions, and that's going to be your tightest thing. There's not going to be a lot of give at all. Again, rotating it all the way counterclockwise to the left to its most loose. That's where you're going to get the most floating action there. And that's all due to that spring that's inside here. So one of the things we want to do is keep that spring or the inside of those tubes really clean. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about cleaning the stanchions. Okay, we're focusing a little bit closer up on the left-hand stanchion tube here, and one of the things we want to do is go ahead and clean it. So when you, if you get a chance, get yourself a nice dry rag. I happen to just have a little paper towel here, but we're going to want to go ahead and kind of, check these out every so often, make sure that there's no dirt. You see there's a little bit there. I don't think my wife has really ridden this enough as of late to have gotten it super dirty, but just kind of want to get in there and make sure that there's no visible. See, there's a little bit of gunk down in there. That's not too bad, but if you lived in a place like the Pacific Northwest where it rains a lot and there's a lot of particulates in the air, you're going to want to probably do this a little bit more often. Maybe if you live somewhere in a dusty location, maybe where there's a lot of gravel roads, or you're in a lot of sand and sandstorms or windstorms, if you will, you'll probably get a little bit more of a buildup here. But we want to keep these as clean as we can and make sure that these tubes aren't bone dry. If there's any gunk that gets into this here, it'll eventually travel down into this tube and kind of, muck up the spring in there and the assembly inside. And over time, it probably won't notice it too much at first, but over time, the shocks, you're going to get like these little micro abrasions, if you will, on the stanchion tubes itself. And they're just not going to go up and down as smoothly, or it could even possibly freeze up on you over a long period of time. And, buying new forks and stuff like that isn't necessarily a cheap thing. So again, we'll go ahead and want to clean this up. I will recommend actually dialing this counterclockwise to loosen that up. So you get a little bit of a, see if I can demonstrate right here. See, there's a little bit of give like that. If we tighten this up, it's going to get tighter. The more I crank it to the right, it's going to get harder and harder. If I go ahead and turn it to all, left here, it gets easier, and I'm going to have actually more give. Yeah, I can already tell it's a little bit more give. And what we want to do is we're going to want to add, once we clean this up, we're going to put a little bit of lubrication on there. So let me go ahead and finish cleaning this up a bit, and we'll talk about lube. Okay, so now let's talk about lubrication. You saw how we go ahead and adjust the tension there, and when we go ahead and remove the tension from that spring on the left-hand fork, that's going to make that fork very pliable now, so we can get some lubrication in there and do some additional cleaning. So there are plenty of different brands of lubrication out there. You can pick them up at Walmart or Target or any biking store. I happen to got mine on Amazon, and it's called WPL Fork Boost Lube. This one happens to be biodegradable. There are synthetic lubes out there. There are some organic lubes. There are stuff that is made out of botanical oils. I've seen them all over the place, and even WD-40 makes a line of biking lubrications. However, make sure you get the biking formula ones. You don't want to use regular WD-40 out of the can that mechanics have, or something that you might have laying around the house. Completely different formula and not really meant for these type of bikes. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and just put a couple of drops around the gasket down there. And then what we want to do is we want to go ahead and pump that suspension to kind of get that lubrication in there. And then we're going to clean a little bit more of the excess dirt. And then we're going to add a couple more drops once we find it's clean enough for our liking. And just enough to keep it, there should be a little sheen on there. You don't want to put a whole mess on there. You don't want it running down the side right there, down the side of the forks itself. A little bit will go a far way, but let's go ahead and take a look at the application. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and just put a couple of drops right in there. Just add like a tiny little bead around the side, and you can go ahead and spread it around with your fingers a little bit. And then the next thing that we want to do, and I did already apply it to the other side, but next thing, now that the forks are extended, if you will, or loosened up, I'm going to go ahead and pump this a little bit to kind of work that oil down into those stanchion tubes. And then we're going to come back and see if we got any additional more grime, and just a little bit. So we got that lube up in there, and you can see from the towel that pumping it down in there, we got a little bit more grime that we didn't get the first time around. So that being said, we could just add a little bit more to it now that we've cleaned it up, just to keep that nice and lube. Again, we don't want a lot of excess. Then we're going to go ahead and tighten this back up to its original position. And for me, I think on this bike, it was about 4 full revolutions for my wife. And then we'll go ahead and talk about lizard skins. Okay, the last thing that I want to talk about is lizard skins. Now, these are completely optional as long as you go ahead and continue to clean your forks every so often. Again, depending on where you live, you might be required to clean them a little bit more often. However, there is a product called lizard skins, and these are neoprene. And I'll leave a link in from Amazon below. But basically, these are sleeves, if you will, that are going to wrap around the forks, and I'm taking it out of the packaging right now. But these forks, you're going to go, or excuse me, these sleeves, you're going to go ahead and cut to size, and I'll show you what it looks like because I've already done it on my bike. But they're again, they're neoprene, and there is a left and right hand side, so you want to make sure that you're aware of that. But what it looks like here is it's got a little cutout here, and it's going to slide in. This is going to be the bottom side here, and there's Velcro on both sides, and it's going to wrap around, and it's basically going to wrap around your fork and stanchion right there and provide some additional protection, trying to keep a lot of the dust and elements out. And I'll go ahead, what you're going to have to do though is make sure that you have a very sharp knife or a pair of scissors, and you're going to cut to size to fit. And we'll show you what it looks like on my bike, so I won't have to do it here. But these are relatively cheap. I want to say, I think they were about 10 bucks. And I think it's worth the investment. Of course, it's not going to get rid of all the debris, and stuff is still going to find its way onto your forks and stanchions, but this is going to help really reduce the grime and dirt and other junk getting in there. So for, you know, a couple extra bucks, why not? So anyway, let's go ahead and I'll show you what they look like on my bike. Okay, I've zoomed in on my forks here. This is my Himiway Black Cruiser here, and you can see that that we want to make sure that this sleeve goes higher, slightly higher than the actual base of the fork. So if I undo this a little bit, you see that this is my stanchion tube right here, and I've cut this a little bit longer than it to get over that lip there. So this whole thing now is more or less protected in there. So let's go ahead. I'll just show you what it looks like here. I'll take this off. I'll put it back on in a second. And there, even so, you can see there's just a tiny little bit of debris has gotten into there, but for the most part, it's kept my forks relatively, debris free. Okay, and a few minutes later, after a couple of cuts with some scissors, we went ahead and installed these lizard skins on my wife, and this is the final result there. So you can see both of them are installed there, and that's how they should look. Pretty much more or less matching mine. So let's take it up top with some finishing comments. All things considered, the whole process should take you less than 10 minutes doing both the left and the right hand side of your forks there. Today it obviously took a few minutes longer because I'm shooting a video and I'm kind of talking you through the steps there. But once you got it down, it's relatively easy and anyone can go ahead and do it. The most important thing is, though, is make sure that you have a proper bike lube. Again, I'll leave a link in the description of the video below, or you can go ahead into a bike shop and pick up lubrication. You just don't want to use something that you found in your garage, because we want to extend the life of our bike. We don't want to shorten it by cutting corners and using something that might eat away at those rubber gaskets or kind of get in and corrode the inside springs there in your tubes. That being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. Go ahead, please feel free to leave me a comment in the comment section below. And if you come across another product, or maybe there's something, an easier way to do this that you want to go ahead and share with me and everyone else, go ahead and let me know. Put that in the comment section below too. Until next time, I hope that, again, I hope you found this video to your worthwhile, and we'll go ahead and see you out on the trails. My name is Jason, and have a great day.